Like the icy waters around Stockholm's archipelago, openness is inherently Swedish. The right to freely seek information is written into the constitution. It's known as offentlighetsprincipen, the public access principle.
It's about a month until UK companies with over 250 people have to have published their gender pay gap. That's the gap between the average pay of men and women. It's different from equal pay, which is whether men and women are paid the same for doing the same or similar jobs, but it is a step towards pay transparency. Here in Sweden, it's a bit easier. You can request pay information through trade unions or equality watchdogs, and companies have to carry out a full pay audit every year.
And there's another way that anyone feeling aggrieved or just curious can take a look at what their neighbours or colleagues might be earning.
Hi, I'm looking for some information about these people, please.
Yeah,
So
you have only name?
Yeah, I only have their names. I think this might be her.
Let me see.
It's very interesting. Bjorn Ulvaeus?
Yeah, of course.
This is his date of birth.
English.
Oh, thank you. Stefan Edberg? I could ask for anyone.
For anyone?
Dolph Lundgren.
Of course. Just a minute, please. We have only one Dolph
Really?
Lundgren. Yeah.
Well, there is only one Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
It feels a bit odd, actually. Anyone can get a range of tax and earnings information about any Swedish individual. So I've got the details of someone I'm due to meet later, a presenter off a leading Swedish current affairs programme, and a range of famous people from Stefan Edberg to Bjorn Ulvaeus. That's Bjorn from ABBA to you and me.
Sweden's gender pay gap is about 12%, below the European average. The UK's is 18%. But Sweden's equality minister still sees a problem.
We know there is an undervaluation of women's work compared to men's work, and that is really a disgrace. And we have to do more to put pressure so that these differences disappear. I think that if a country or a government want to change gender inequalities, they have to address that, because otherwise you won't see, talking about transparency, that this is really about a power shift. So transparency is very important, and it has been for us, but you also have to talk about gender inequalities.
Back home, only about a sixth of the companies required to report their gender pay gap have done so. That leaves about 7,500 to go before early April then. It concerns the woman who secured government support for pay gap reporting in 2015.
I'm a bit disappointed with the way the regulations, the details of those have been drawn up, because there aren't any firm sanctions. There's no fines that can be imposed on companies. There is a transparency mechanism, so if firms are not compliant, then effectively they can be named and shamed.
So what would you actually like to see happen? What more would you like to see happen?
We absolutely need to look at what more we can do to right this injustice. And that could be more transparency, it could be people being able to get more information from their employer, it could be more responsibilities on the companies themselves to do more digging into their own data so that they are able to justify any pay differentials that do exist.
Everyone at Grantry knows what everyone else earns.
The first day I got into the company, I was just sent my pay information, and at first I was a bit confused. There was a lot of pay information in one spreadsheet, and then I was just scrolling down and all of the pay information was in that spreadsheet. So I thought that was pretty startling, but you get used to it.
The company helps other businesses apply for government grants. It uses a type of self-management called holacracy, and part of that is pay transparency.
You can go into this spreadsheet at any time, and everybody's listed in here. You see, here's me, and you can see what somebody's salary is and also the reason for it. So if we look here, you can see that my salary is 51,500 from the pay review that we just finished earlier this year.
But this isn't about gender pay or discrimination. They just think it's a better way of doing things.
by sharing information about pay, and actually by sharing information about all of the financial health of the company with all of the people who work here. We build a lot of trust in that relationship. And there's an awful lot of work that suggests that actually the amount of trust that you experience of work, how sort of psychologically safe you feel, really has an impact on the quality of the work that you can do.
One argument in favour of transparency is that actually we're all pretty bad at judging how we're paid. Research in the US by PayScale found that nearly 90% of people who thought they were underpaid were actually paid in line or above market rates. Greater transparency can, of course, cause some problems, some awkward conversations. But longer term, there's evidence it can also mean improved morale, better productivity and improved retention.
Det kan ju vara faktiskt värt att titta på då ifall vi ska.
In Sweden, transparency seems to be seen primarily as a democratic ideal, not a tool for pay. Camilla Wagner is a consultant on gender issues.
Do you think that people use the tools they have here enough?
No, not enough. I always advise people, if they are going into a negotiation, you should really get all the information you can. So just call the Swedish tax agency and make sure that you have the information of people with similar jobs in that organization and see what they make.
So why do you think people don't use the tax information? Is it sort of cultural reticence?
Yes, it is a cultural thing in Sweden. We never talk about money. It's easier to talk about STDs than it is to talk about how much money you make, which is really something we need to get over if we want to close the gender gap.
Some think this is just all a storm over statistics, that the pay gap can be explained by seniority, types of work or career choices. But even among those who see a serious and persistent problem, there's debate. Is it better to free up information and allow individuals to fight their own battles? Or is government enforcement needed to stop women being left out in the cold?